Here we are, and it's hard to believe that this is already week number 5 of Spring Awakening. And spring is indeed awakening. All the other seasons that we have studied throughout this class, not this one, but the different sessions, have their own wonders. But spring is a crazy thing. It's on warp speed. You blink your eyes and you're going to miss something really important. After break, we're going to be talking about spring ephemerals and spring flowers. They're here for a really short window of time. And now is the time for sea-run fish. I don't know if you've seen them out there. Yeah, it's a frenzy of spawning and returning or going out, depending on them. And sea-run fish are pretty cool. These are alewives. Here we go, test number 1. Oh, that's not so good. Yeah, it is. Why is my little thing not going? All right, I'm going to try one more little attempt here. If not, I'll have to do it by hand, but we can do that.
So, do shad come up though? I'd like to see them spawn. Shad come up, but shad are
This worked last night.
Maine.
What was that?
Haven't recovered.
Shad.
Is it shad roe?
Shad roe is awesome.
Oh, roe is to die for.
All right, we have hit a wall, not a dam, just a wall.
You want me to sit there and tap it?
No, I can do it because I'm going to have to tell you. I think it's easier if I just walk over and tap it. But you know, I've tried this 3 times in the past 4 days, and it worked seamlessly. Yes.
You over-prepared.
I didn't, actually. Because I started talking, you went, I'll do it later after lunch. But it worked every time. Not this time. Okay, sea-run fish. I may need to adjust that a little bit too. Ellen, forward. There we go. Okay. So what are sea-run fish? Simply, they are fish that migrate between 2 very different habitats, between saltwater and between freshwater, for the purposes of spawning. They are hugely environmentally important. They bring nutrients from the ocean into our estuaries and into our streams. They're also culturally important. People have been deeply entwined with sea-run fish for over 10,000 years, much more than with the subjects that we've looked at. Legends, there's stories about them, there are festivals based on their return in the spring. Some of them are success stories, and some of them are maybe failures, too strong a word, but some of them are maybe still in the process. We're also going to be looking at the stories of a few select species. We have 12 in Maine. We're not going to look at all of them in depth. We'll touch briefly on them, but we're going to tell stories about some of the species that we have right here. And every time we start a new section, you've been given vocabulary, and a lot of it's pretty overwhelming. We, for insects, had elytra and Homo metabilis and other words that we used. For botany, there are books, entire books called the Botanist Vocabulary. There are hundreds of pages of words that you need to know. Sea-run fish aren't so complicated. There's actually one that we don't really even need. But the first 3, if we can get those down, it makes it a lot simpler. Diadromous. Adromous means running, and di means through, between. So diadromous is for any fish. It's basically a synonym for sea-run. Same thing, any fish that moves back and forth, actually not back and forth, that moves from one habitat to the other for spawning. Now, here are the diadromous fish. They do that. Of the diadromous fish, one species, the American eel, is catadromous. That means it's going downriver. Think catacombs, they're under the ground where people bury their friends or family under the ground, and adromous is running. So catadromous is running down, running out to sea. The only one we have that does that is the American eel. Anadromous is everybody else. And an means up, going upwards. So anadromous are all the fish that live most of their life in salt water, but come in to spawn. And Maine has 11 species. And then Eurohaline, I think I just put that in because there's more space on the bottom of the slide. It is any specimen that tolerates a wide range of salinities. It doesn't necessarily need to be a fish. I think we were talking about macroinvertebrates or vernal pools. Somebody was talking about the salamander that has been able to evolve itself in Otter Creek where it can deal with salt water. It's fascinating. Nobody knows really how or why. And the whole thing, how this happens, is pretty unusual too. But first, sea-run fish.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. And we're all going to talk it.
And it might be just over the top, but what exactly biologically allows this fish? Is it just a wide tolerance of salinity to be? What does it have inside of it in anatomical weight?
Okay, so sea-run fish are called nutritional conveyor belts because they are bringing nutrients from salt water into the fresh water. It mostly goes that way. What are they bringing? They're bringing nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus, fats. And how are they doing it? By bringing their bodies in. So their bodies come in, and many of them die after spawning. Some don't, some go out and come back. But the majority of them are food. They're eaten. So when these fish that are coming in from Greenland, or maybe not that far away, loaded with fats and nutrients, come into these freshwater streams, they're eaten by another species. Could be a mink, could be an osprey, maybe a human, dolphin, lobsters. They're all consuming the nutrients by eating that fish. And then either they get eaten and the cycle goes on, or they excrete it out. And those nutrients go into the soils and the water where they just came in. And there are studies that show any plants and trees that grow near the edge of a body of water that has anadromous fish come in grow, this number is amazing, it daunts me, 3 times faster and stronger than plants that do not have this nutritional conveyor belt bringing these nutrients in. And, oh, nothing's working. Oh, you know why it's not working? I didn't turn it on. We'll see with the next slide. Look, I was getting all panicked because I wanted to use my pointer. So you may remember seeing this caddisfly larva when we were doing macroinvertebrates. So why is it here? We're talking about sea-run fish. Because it's one of the biggest food sources for smolt, for young salmon that haven't gone out to sea yet, but they're living in the estuaries. And it's also much duplicated by human beings as flies for fly fishing.
Oh, right.
Because you're going to see that humans and these sea-run fish have been deeply connected for over 10,000 years. Okay, it works. So cultural importance. Sea-run fish, probably more than any other thing we've talked about, are deeply entwined with people and our history. They were sustenance for many, many years. Wabanaki tribes ate them. European settlers relied on them until the Industrial Revolution, until they built close to 1,000 dams here in Maine, which, guess what? It stopped the fish from getting back to their spawning grounds, but we're working on that. Recreational fisheries have waxed and waned, and one of those is the fly fishing that we're just talking about. Fly fishing for salmon was huge on the Narraguagus River and other parts of Maine. In the early 1800s, people came from all over the world, it's hard to believe, to fly fish. I've been on the Narraguagus looking for something called the Academy Pool, which was a place where people would get time slots, just like in Scotland. You'd have half an hour to fish, and then you'd have to move down to the next one. It was really a big deal. It supported guides, it supported hotels, and that's all gone because of the dams, because of the pollution, because the fish don't get back to spawn. You're going to hear that repeated a little bit as part of this theme. So historical harvesting, either fly fishing or commercial harvesting of these fish, is now, and sustainable management have led to a huge success story. That's a weird slide. Anyway, but they are culturally important, particularly alewives, because people get together and are celebrating the return of these fish, and we've done some pretty major things to bring them back. Annual community celebrations, a widow's share, this one makes me giggle a little bit, is still in place, it's still on the books. If you are a widow and you perhaps lost your husband at sea or whatever, Many of the fishways, you are entitled to go down with your bucket and they will fill it with alewives for you. Because you don't have your husband anymore, you get alewives, right? Just as good. I don't know.
Better deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonder how you prove it.
That's right.
I'll enjoy that one too.
So we are going to get to yours just in the next slide, Marilla. But humans and fish. So there we are. Fish and widows, fish and harvesters, fish and dams. How many people in here have seen the alewives or seen any of our fish that are running right now? You know, I would have guessed it was everyone. I'm surprised. Well, we don't give homework, but definitely seeing the alewives.
Just go to the Sumsville Library.
Yep.
And you'll see them there milling, and you'll see people sitting with chairs too.
Yeah.
That'll be your clue, but you know, it's close, right?
Yeah. They just started yesterday, so there aren't many. There weren't any yesterday morning.
Stirring around in the water.
What?
You're going to see them stirring. in the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and you'll see them leaping.
You'll
see them jumping because they're trying to get
How
up.
long does this last?
That's just it. Blink and it's over.
Yeah.
Better get next time.
I know. I have a calendar at the last slide, gives dates and times and where to go for the different places.
Surrey has a fish ladder that goes up to Patton Pond. You can see him there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that one's on my list. I have a list of about 8 of them at the end. We should add that one to it.
Seal Cove?
Yes.
That's a
That one. Oh my gosh, I'm going to give you. Okay. At the last slide, they're doing, I might as well say now, they are doing a monitor training today at 4 o'clock. So if you want to reserve, they want reservations, you just go down. Even if you end up not doing it, they teach you how to look, give you a little counter and train you so you can take a time slot to count the alewives as they come back. So any other, your story, you were telling me about counting girls.
Well,
Share that.
It's really interesting because they've been running for a while over in Brooksville, off of Walker Pond and up in the Bagaduce River watershed. And there's a low place in Brooksville that has a couple of houses, and you can tell when they're running because the seagulls get up there and they sit on all
I've
the
seen
ridges,
that. I know what you
and
mean. I've seen that.
it's and then it gets so crowded. There's just this lawn, and then it gets so crowded that some of them have to go down to the boulders, and that's when it's really, really running. But this has only been very recently when they opened up the watershed and took out some culverts that weren't working. It was a huge project.
Yeah.
But the thing that has touched me has been every spring I see a couple of little girls, one at a time, with a father or a grandfather. There's always different people. And the school comes down to show the kids, but these little girls, and I don't know why it's always little girls, they go home apparently and they bring their fathers and their grandfathers. Their grandfathers may have remembered when the alewives ran, but their fathers, they wouldn't have because they've been gone for so long. And it's incredibly touching to watch this, all that work, and I thought, this is so silly, all this work, and then I see this, and it's just profoundly meaningful to me.
It's a huge success story, and everyone here is part of that, whether you contributed to a nonprofit or whatever, or you watched them. Does anybody else want to share a connection they had with these fish?
Well, quickly, I'm a member of the Somes board, and I've been on boards before the fishways were restored in Somesville. And so in like 2005 or something, when David Lalonde was the director, we loaded like 600 alewives at the swimming pond. And because the Somes family always swam with the alewives, I jumped in the water with them.
I love it. Yeah. You would, Roberta, though. Yeah. So culturally important as well as really environmentally important by connecting these two different bodies of water. I'm going to do it again. So what happens when you put a goldfish in the ocean? It dies. And no, when you put it, yeah. And if you
Yeah.
bring an ocean fish and put it in fresh water, it is
does.
not going to make it because it has not adapted to salinity. Only 1%, think about that, one teeny tiny percent of all the fish on our planet are euryhaline or able to shift to breathe, to get oxygen in salt water and in fresh water. And it doesn't happen almost overnight. But they have, and I don't go into great depth here, unfortunately, because it started getting over my head. It's because of the gills, and the gills have specialized cells. Some of them are good for fresh water, some are good for salt water, and they change in number. So when they're in salt water, they have more of the ionocytes that can process salt. When they're in fresh water, way more of the other cells. And that is about the extent of my knowledge.
Well, still, that's pretty fascinating, I think.
But,
They've
yeah.
obviously evolved to do that.
Yeah, and that they evolved to change. The fact that they change back and forth is
Yeah,
crazy.
it's really cool.
Yeah. So in salt water, they are drinking salt water to get water into their bodies, and they're excreting really heavy urine that has a lot of salts in it. And in fresh water, they do the opposite. They're simply not drinking at all. They're not taking water in, and their urine is very dilute because they want to keep what little salts they have and get rid of the excess salts.
Do fish have kidneys?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the organ of fish. Okay.
Yes,
it's
so
the
all of
same-
those.
It's the same process.
That is, yeah, human, yeah.
How long can they go without drinking?
I think as long as they're there. I don't know. Good question.
It seems kind of.
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. Yeah.
So how are they getting their oxygen?
Through their gills. Their gills are processing as fish typically do, but they modify the number of ions. They modify whether they're getting salts, or whether they're in salt water or fresh water. Don't ask me any more questions. That's it. Okay, so now we're going to start looking at some. Did somebody want to add something to that?
I was just gonna say birds do a similar thing that are land birds and
Yeah.
go to the sea.
Oh, okay.
So they
They-
cry out salt,
Ah.
they change their kidneys over,
Cool.
and they
I
change
didn't know
their
that.
drinking.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Cool.
I've read about that, like seagulls, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So Atlantic salmon, the president's fish, the king's fish, you're up next. Or yeah, I think you're up next. Salmo salmer means leaper. So this is a fish that leaps. That's why it's leaping there in that picture. Because of the dams, overfishing, pollution after the Industrial Revolution led for the numbers to go down from 500,000 to 1,200. These are like the poster child of all the sea-run fish. They get a lot of attention. They're kind of iconic, and I sometimes think the other fish don't get enough attention, but that's okay. But the whole idea is that these fish, if we can make them successful, it means we've cleaned up our habitat. It means we've worked together as communities. It means we've done what we need to do to have this population stabilize and grow. Right now, it's a really small population. It is only here because of our hatcheries, believe it or not. That's a lot of money. Think about those buildings and all the employees that are there to keep this one species from going extinct. And that's because the salmon fishery, the fly fishing industry basically died. And that is when, in the early 1800s, mid-1800s, the fly fishermen realized there was a problem with the population, and I think it was 1860 that the first federal hatchery was created here in Craigbrook to prevent, I don't have to go over there. Yeah. So I mentioned that they're called the president's salmon. That's because once a year, the largest salmon in the Penobscot River was selected to go down to the president, which is an amazing story. And right here in this very room, we happen to have the granddaughter of this person who is going to tell us a little bit about it.
So that's Wellington Parker, who's my great-grandfather, and that's a picture of him holding the salmon that they're sending down to the White House. He had Parker's Fish Market in Bangor, and they sent it every year to the White House until Bill Clinton sent it back, and that was the last.
Ah,
He sent it back.
He
1990s.
refused it.
Why?
Yeah.
Because they were endangered and he
Yeah.
didn't want to continue
Oh.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Symbolic.
So that was the end of that. But up until then, so that one's going to Coolidge, I think, I can't remember.
It says Coolidge, yep.
Coolidge, yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so that's my great grandfather.
Wow.
Which is cool. Yeah, see, we're all connected somehow or other to the stories of these fish, which I think is remarkable. So what happened to these salmon? I talked about the dams and the pollution reducing. That was their historic range. They went all the way down to the Connecticut River. And this is 2017. I don't think it's changed that much. This is when we were in hatchery control and it's being deeply, deeply managed.
Do you have idea of what the Canadian side of New Brunswick is?
That is very different. They're managing it a little bit more aggressively. They have the Atlantic Salmon Federation that is more active there. And that's interesting because last night there was a showing of a film called Scales of Change. And it's about the Atlantic salmon fishery. It's a lot of connections with people from Quebec, from guides, fly fishermen, and Native Americans, and what they're doing and how it is a little bit different from what we're doing. When I send the PowerPoint out to you guys, I'm going to have a link to that video. It's 45 minutes and it's really beautiful and very stunning.
To what extent do the pen salmon threaten the wild salmon?
Marine lice increase mortality because farmed salmon have lice, and when they escape, if they are interacting with wild fish, they can give them the lice, and that will kill our native fish. Breeding is a possibility because it will dilute their DNA. That's another fear. So yes, that's definitely a problem, but difficult, really difficult to control, but it's being monitored. So our fish hatcheries, the Craigbrook, the Green Lake, and East Machias are all open to the public. Each one has a different flavor, and I highly recommend if you have the chance you go to one of them. The one in Craigbrook has a big interpretive area, and it's technically open to the public 9 to 2 every day. You can go in and learn a lot of stuff. If there's a docent there, they will take you down and you can look at the tanks. They're divided by river, so there's one room called the Machias River, and all the fish in there are bred from fish, eggs that were harvested from a Machias River fish, and those fish, when they're released, will go back to the Machias River. These fish are very connected to their homeland, too. So anyway, I went to the Green Lake, and one of the project leaders there, Catherine Johnston, she said, send your students up. If I have time, I'll show them around. So if she has time, she will show you around. And I was like writing notes like crazy, and I said, can't I just film you? So I threw my phone up and captured this. Whoops.
They live in these trays as eggs, and eventually hatch into all the fry that you see. They hatch into all the fry that you see. There are like 5,000 in this tray. Fry in this tray. Some of them we have to pick out because they've died. We pick them every 4 to 5 days. We really don't want dead ones to stay in there. That promotes growth of fungus.
Look at all those trays.
That's crazy.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
You
Yeah.
said 5,000 in that one
In
tray.
one tray, so 5,000 times all of those trays. Yeah, and this is what we're doing to save this one species. Yeah.
But are we winning it all, or are we just still losing? I mean, despite all this effort here, do we know?
Depends on who you talk to.
Oh, that's not good, because that means it's not like clearly we're winning.
Correct, and it's not like clearly we're losing. So we're right at that kind of cusp. The numbers seem to be holding steady, but they don't seem to be drastically improving. But look at what we're doing. We're drastically improving other things, alewives.
We're trying to put
So there's
fish
hope.
ladders in.
Yeah. Game's not done yet, right? It's not over till the big person sings.
You got yourself.
You did. I know, I had to think of another word. So the next species is alewives. They are all in the genus Alosa. Alosa is simply an Anglo-Saxon word for fish or herring, anything in the herring family. Pseudoherringus means fake herring because they run at the same time that the blue back herring are running, and they're hard to tell apart. I can't tell them apart. I know many people can, but I can't. So they have benefited from the dam removal because they're not leapers. They don't leap the way the salmon do. They have the hard time. The first time that dam came in, you know that old joke, they said dam because they hit it and that was it. But they're also benefiting from the removal of the dams. So even though removal might have been started for the salmon, it is really now working for the habitat and for the alewives and everybody else is benefiting from this. So Damascotta, that fishway was built in 1807. So that's a really long human history of connection with the salmon. And this is just a picture from Damascotta. Again, I stuck my phone underneath the water. And you can see some of them have like white spots on the back. I think we might have just missed it. I think that's another one. There, you see that one there? That is from the osprey trying to eat it. That many they survived to live another day.
Those are osprey that just got electrocuted somewhere.
A fish?
No,
osprey.
Oh, an osprey.
Yeah,
Oh,
osprey
really?
and
Wow.
the nest got electrocuted. I'm trying to think, it's a pretty well-known place, and everybody was pretty upset.
Yeah, I bet.
Because of building the nest on top of the wire, you know.
Ah,
you know,
yeah.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
something happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. So alewives are called saw bellies because the first part of their belly has like little sharp spines. It's not like a stickleback, just spines in the back, but they're definitely there and they're present.
Does anybody eat alewives now?
Yes, they do. The widows, obviously, because they get but we saw those ones that were dried and smoked.
Yeah.
I get one at least every year if I can. $1 a piece. How can they do that? He's doing it because it's his tradition, and his family did it. It's this guy on Route 1 heading toward down south. He does it in his garage. So I get an alewife, I bring it home, I shred it. It's very smoked tasting. I cook it in a cream sauce with capers and put it on pasta, and it's really delicious. So that's my alewife story.
But I wonder if that's a dying tradition. Is he passing it on, do you know?
I don't know. He was young. I mean, he was far younger than I am, so
That's great.
hopefully he is passing it on. And they leave at the same time. We all celebrate the return, but we don't necessarily celebrate their departure. And they're pretty amazing. This again is Damascotta. I used to go there pretty regularly. And when they swim, all the time. How do they do that? They all do it. It's a little humbling.
How big are they?
At this point, they're maybe 3 inches or 4. So the alewives have gone in, and sometimes they're passing at the same time. There might still be new alewives coming in to spawn while some of these are going out. So you can see both at the same time.
Last year was a hard year for them returning because of the low water levels in Somes Pond. So it was later seeing them, but you can swim with those fish.
Yes, you can. Actually, this is from a place called the Mill Pond that has a B&B.
How did that feel? Did you feel them touching your body, or?
Well, it's just like swimming with minnows, but there's a lot around you. I mean, you know, part the water's there.
Cool.
Nice.
So American shad, alosa, and sapidissima. It sounds just like what it is. It sounds kind of like Italian for delicious, and that's what it means. Most delicious, because the shad is a truly delicious fish. I grew up shad fishing with my dad on the Connecticut River, and my dad was not a very good fisherman. So after we shad fished for most of Sunday afternoon, we would go to a pop-up seafood market called, the only reason I love the name, the Shad Shack. And we would get our shad deboned and bring it home for Mom to cook.
My mother used to talk about when the shad bush bloomed in Virginia, that was when the shad would run. And they would actually go down with bushel baskets and put them down in the water and lift them out, and it would be full of shad.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a big political tradition. In the spring, there's the shad flanking, which is a party meeting from all over the state. They cook them on wooden planks, and it's flipped over the fire. But the real love is the shad roe, which is very much for delicacy. It's getting to be hard, though, even in Virginia, to get shad now, which is really, you know.
Who in here has eaten shad? Wow, more than so. Okay, and did you like it? Yeah, that's my feeling too.
And the roe.
And the roe, love the roe.
Delicious.
Yep. Yeah, we had a shad festival for my parents' 65th anniversary in Connecticut. It was pretty awesome. So yes, those flowers. Last year I had bouquets all over the place. I don't know. I think I just forgot. Our shad bush, also called shad wood, shad blow, serviceberry, because they're blooming when the ground is soft enough that you can dig and bury people who died over the winter and have their services. Juneberry, Saskatoon, Amelanchier, sugar plum. I mean, some of those I'd never heard of, but you know, Amelanchier. Stick with it, then you'll know what you're talking about.
Easy for you to say.
They were. They've been harvested and consumed. They were huge source of sustenance. Think about these sea-run fish. People living here, indigenous and the early colonial people, after a long, hard winter. What a reason to celebrate. Here come these fish bringing their nutritions on the conveyor belt just for them to eat. Like others that are allosas in the shad family or the herring family, they have otoliths, which are the bone inside their ears that have tiny hairs on them, which means they're very susceptible to motion in the water, and they're considered as having the best hearing of all fish. And it's speculated that the reason they do this is because one of their prime predators are dolphins when they're out, and that they can hear the echolocution when dolphins are hunting them and therefore get the heck out of there.
Good plan.
Yeah. So a little bit more on the shad. Dam construction reduced their population. They were the first to disappear, I already said, because they're not leapers, so they got stuck. They're making a comeback now. There are more and more shad. I've been shad fishing on the Narraguegas, which they weren't there 10 years ago. But another fish mystery, no one knows where they go. Or what they do at sea. I mean, Atlantic salmon is very much studied. They go to Greenland, and the Atlantic Salmon Federation put radio tags on them. These are seriously studied fish. The shad, maybe not so much.
Can you buy them? The eels are
Yeah.
Where can you buy them?
I have to look. I hunt. It's been a couple years since I had them, or actually sometimes what I do is I go up and ask one of the fishermen who's catching them, because they don't necessarily, they're very bony.
They don't like them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like eating Harper Pollock.
Yeah. So you might find somebody fishing for one who will give you one, and then you get to clean it.
They're bony.
They're really
Yeah.
bony. That's why we used to get ours deboned.
Well, you still have your
I still have to.
Yeah. So all these sea-run fish reproduce by eggs. Completely different strategy from chickens or humans, where they raise their young and take care of them. They have eggs. They're dispersed. Many. They're just hoping, without care, that some of them will survive. The salmon has 7,500 eggs per year. They're lucky if 2 survive.
Wow.
Yeah. The the smelts have 20 to 80,000. The alewives 300,000. The shad 600,000. The eels up to 4 million. How they get this number, I don't know, because we don't see all those eggs. You can't really count them 23,000 feet below the sea. But those are the numbers.
I think we're going to fish them out. They're not
Yeah, it's possible. So there's a little ditty that I like about the fish and all their eggs. It's traditional, so I don't have to say who it belonged to. The alewife lays 300,000 eggs. The homely hen, only one. The alewife never cackles to tell you what she's done, and so we scorn the alewife, while the humble hen we prize, which only goes to show you that it pays to advertise. Culture, we're all bound with these things. All right, so the next one is the rainbow smelt. And while there is a paucity of hands-on for this class, made up for it with handouts, so I'm sure, yeah. You take this home. These were donated. The files were given by Downey Salmon Federation. You can look at it briefly now, but don't get so engrossed in it that you stop paying attention to me. They lay 20 to 80,000 eggs, and they're sticky, so they stick to rocks. I've never seen them, so if any of you see them, give me a text. I would love to see them underneath the water. Apparently they're visible. I've not seen them yet. They don't travel far, unlike some of the other species you've seen, like the salmon go over thousands of miles to Greenland. The eels that we're going to look at go over 1,000 miles. They just go in and out, brackish into the estuaries, but they definitely are migrating, and they're definitely doing the salt, the Urey-Halling thing. Their bodies are adapting to salt water and fresh water. They're so oily, they are also called candlefish. If you dry them, the same way you saw those alewives hanging, I really want to try this year. You could take, say, a bowl of sand, stick your dried smelt in it, light the top, and it will burn all the way down just like a candle.
Whoa.
I know.
What does that smell like?
Smelt. It smells like smelt. Yeah. So we talk about smells. They get the name osmers because when you first catch them, they smell like watermelon or cucumbers.
Really?
Which I have caught them and I've never noticed that. But I'm also going to say, going back home with a mess in the car, it didn't smell particularly fishy. But I never actually sniffed them to see if they smell like.
Are these the ones that they're fishing for under the ice houses in the
Yes.
winter?
Yes, it is. Yes. Okay. So these are being studied because our populations are down using eDNA. I'll get to that. It's connected to environmental DNA because they only come in when it's cold. They come in on a rising tide. It's almost always at night. The UMO students probably don't want to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning studying these fish. So eDNA is lingering in the water from their scale bits, from urine, from whatever, and they can study the fish by gathering the DNA that's in the water. So the population is down here. It's a pest in Ontario. It's the same species. They went up the streams in New York, and now they're in Ontario, and they're reproducing. They're no longer capable of migrating to different habitats, so they fake it. They migrate from Ontario up a stream and then back, but still, it's freshwater to freshwater, so it's not anadromous. But smelt is the fishing on the mouth of the Kennebec River. There are smelt tents that you can rent
Not just that.
in holes. I want to do it. I think it would be fun.
In Augusta, Maine, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Augusta.
Well, actually, it's in Gardner,
Yes.
south of Augusta.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
a place where there's.
Yeah, there are 3 or 4. And it just seems like a fun thing. And they're always busy because families are still connecting to their sea-run fish. And that is what I love about it, is that there's still this deep connection. And it may be kids who didn't go to the fancy ice houses, but they're learning that their grandparents did it in their backyards or whatever. It's just a passing on of us interacting with these guys. And Osmers means odor, I said that. Bodenham is where a lot of those tents are. And I should have gotten the video for this. I don't know why I didn't, but you can find it on YouTube. Because when I first went smelt fishing, I was told, well, when you catch a smelt, you're supposed to bite the head off, suck the guts off, and spit it out. And that's well known because obviously they heard the same little ditty that I heard, and all 3 of them
We're
did
pretty
it.
much laughing about it.
They were laughing about it, but then they did indeed. I should have had the video. They all did
Oh,
it.
they did it?
They did it. They did it.
Mostly they just go and they drink. I mean,
That's not true. You give them a bad name. I don't know. You saw that silly movie. Okay, the American eel. So this is our only catadromous fish. This is the only one that goes out to spawn, goes down river to spawn. And this is a beautiful picture from right here in Somersville.
See what I call glass?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'm going to go right to the next slide because it's got a better thing about their life cycle. So let's say you have a mature silver eel. It's lived its life. They can live in fresh ponds and fresh water 20, 25 years. There are apocryphal stories about some of them living 50 to 100 years. People swear they've had them in the same fish in their pond. I don't know. Maybe it's true. But mature silver eels, they decide it's time to go to the Sargasso Sea. Why the Sargasso Sea? I'm not sure anybody really knows. On their way to the Sargasso Sea, that's where they were born, they develop reproductive parts. The males will get milt, the females will have eggs, and then they go to the sea, which is our only sea that is not bound by land. It's bound by currents. It's kind of oval shaped, and it's, there's the light gray picture down there. I think that's it right there. They go there, it's 23,000 feet deep. We don't really see how this happens. Sigmund Freud, when he was studying, he became not a biologist, maybe this is why. One of his tasks was to discover the reproductive parts of the eel, and he did not succeed. It wasn't until maybe 20 years ago that they found they grow them as silver eels. So they go there and they mate, and here's the other mystery. We have two populations, American and European, and the American come back up the north coast. Actually, they're not coming back because they've never been here before. And the European go to the European coast. The Europeans are pretty much decimated. Their fishing is highly regulated because they've got such a diminished population. We can still fish for elvers. But how do they know? I mean, are there two separate bodies of water? Okay, the American eels are over here. Here's the boundary. They're the European. We don't know. But they go to the right place. And that, I think, is incredibly cool. So they pop up.
Well, but, like butterflies go to a certain, and birds go to a certain, and I'm not sure we understand any of that.
No, we don't.
So if you looked at them, are the European ones and the American ones the same by DNA, or?
I don't know.
No, they're a little bit different.
Are they?
They can't enter.
Yeah.
They don't
They're
interview. They're
different
separate
species.
species,
Yeah.
right?
I think
Right,
that there's
right.
that
The
book of
rostrata, they
eels
are
that
separate
talks about
species.
that.
Yeah. So they float to the surface as larvae. The eggs have hatched. We've not seen them hatch. And they're described as looking like little willow leaves with a fish head, tiny fish head stuck to the top. They will get up to 3 inches long, but they're drifting. They can't swim. They're just like floating with the current. And then when they get to the coast, they will turn into the glass eel, which is basically the same as the elver. The elver is just a slightly darker form of it. They will go upstream. They will find a safe place to stay. It's not important to them if their parents or their great-grandparents were in that body of water. Their home, they were born in the Sargasso Sea. So they, unlike all our other species, which are smelling minerals, they want to go back to the place where they were spawned. These guys just want to find a body of water where they can tuck themselves away and live for 25 or 30 years. And in Soamesville, you can see them crawling up this wall of the fishway when they start running, and there are people fishing there now. And a couple of years ago, a COA student did a study of them, and she did this little video, which I think sums it up pretty nicely.
Another diatreme species, elvers, also known as glass eels, are a larval stage of an American eel. They are miniature and cannot fight against the current in the fish ladder. Therefore, elvers in Soamesville use a tiny natural brook that runs next to the fish passage. If we take a look underwater, we can clearly see how elvers are constantly fighting against the river current. Natural structures such as leaf litter or rocks help elvers to stay together as a bundle and slowly make their way upstream step by step. If we have a closer look of the species, we can see that elvers are biofluorescent. There is no research to share about reasons why they glow. Perhaps it is camouflage-related adaptation. All these elvers together remind an eelgrass bed and could trick their predators. It can also be a way of communicating with each other. No one has figured it out yet. All of these elvers were born about 7 months ago in the Sargasso Sea near the Bahamas. They travel thousands of miles up north by entering the Gulf Stream, being in the form of leptocephalus, then go through a larval transformation and become glass eel and elver like seen in this video. Then they can stay in freshwater up to 25 years until they migrate back to the Sargasso Sea.
See? Sorry, I don't know. So a friend of a friend has her license, and she goes to get elvers in Soamesville. It's not as lucrative this year. She did not want her name, but she wanted to make sure that we got to see a close-up look of her catch. So this is from last year. They use something called a fife net. It's a long pyramidal thing. You've probably seen them in the stream. Yes, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the numbers are really down. It was the second most important fishery after lobstering. I don't know if it will be this year or not.
They need to stop the fishery.
Yeah. Well, the demand has gone down for them too.
Those-
Two years ago, they were $2,000 a pound.
Yeah.
This year, as of yesterday, they were $258
Oh
a
my
pound.
God.
So it's really dropped out. I'm glad I didn't buy stock.
Shipped to China or
Yeah.
Japan?
Yes.
They
They go to China and they're farm raised, and then a lot of them are eaten there, but then they'll go to Japan and be processed. So you could be sitting in a sushi bar in Ellsworth, Maine, eating eel that started here in Maine. Think about this long trip. Went to China, spent its years growing up in a farm, went to Japan, got processed, and was brought back to a restaurant right here. There's something wrong with that picture, actually. But
Wasn't there a program on PBS talking about a summer venture in Maine?
yeah, it just went bankrupt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I think they're in bankruptcy now. They were in like the, oh gosh, can't remember what town they were in, south of here, and it had been going on for about 5
years, yeah.
It sounded really promising. I don't know what happened.
What were they doing?
They were farm raising them here instead of sending them away.
Is there just not enough of a sushi market here?
I don't know. I really don't know. I just saw the other day that, because I'd heard about it and sounded like a great idea, and I saw that they had just filed and that a lot of people...
Maybe the price at $250.
Maybe that was part of it.
Dump it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
right, and then you need water equipment at a high interest rate.
Yeah, I don't know. So we have a nice baker's dozen of diatomaceous fish. Makes a really easy calendar. I don't know if you saw the calendar over there. One fish for every month.
How are the sturgeon doing?
Okay, so we have 2 sturgeon here. They are coming back. I'm not going to say they're a raging success story, but their numbers are going up. We have the Atlantic sturgeon, which grows to 800 pounds. This thing is huge.
Wow.
Yeah, they're incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Have you seen them?
Yeah, I saw
Oh,
one.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the
I've
catback
It's on
been
my
there,
list.
Passamaquoddy Bay.
and the
Yeah,
Penobscot River.
yeah. So they're both still on the endangered. You cannot
They're
fish for them.
incredible looking. They're huge and
They have
really
scoots.
prehistoric
They
looking.
they don't have a complete bonal system the way we do, a skeletal system. It's mostly cartilage.
Armor.
And then they have armor, which are scoots rather than scales. And there's the eel that we talked about, the Sargasso Sea, and how cool they are.
Lampreys.
Our poster child, the salmon. Striped bass, they are really only here, I think, because they needed to make an even 12, but they come up from Delaware. There is one small population that apparently does stay here, so we can, quote, claim it as one of our main diatomaceous fish. The rainbow smelt, dry it up, light it with a match.
Yeah.
The sea lamprey we didn't talk about, mostly because I don't really know much about them. They are one of our few fish. They're kind of primitive. They don't have a jaw. They have a sucker, so they suck blood off of their host. But what they do is they're really good at habitat preparation. When they come in, they clean the gravel for the salmon and other things. They make it better for them to spawn. Brook trout are mostly in the freshwater ponds and lakes, but we do have a small population, again, that is anadromous. They're called salters. They go out into the salt water and come back. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Go back. Maybe I won't. No, I'm going the other way. All right. I have about 2 minutes left. Well, we're just going to ignore that. How do we study these fish? Because it's important. And it's not only important that we're celebrating them, but we have different ways of studying them. We've looked at the eDNA, how you can gather information from the water. I talked briefly about the salmon in Greenland having radio tags on them, and Atlantic salmon fisheries studying to find out where the mortality is the worst. And then all our fish hatcheries here use fish scales. So if you're a fisherman and you catch a salmon, you can take a scale and send it to them, and they will age it, find out where it was born, and what its story is. I have some brochures over there on how to age them. What was that?
Looks like a thumbprint.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It's like rings on a tree too.
And does each one have a different scale pattern, or?
Yes, they do, because it's shaped by their lives. So this is a hatchery fish. See how even those rings are? Super duper. Because the temperatures are consistent. They don't have to worry about predators. The light is all the same. This is a wild fish. See how different? You've got dark things here depending on the year. And this is one that also has spawned. So that shows that it's come in, it's spawned, it's gotten damaged, but it's gone out to spawn again. So there's a lot you can learn from a scale. I wanted to get scales for everybody to look at, but they told me they would.
Spawning, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Spawning is a scratch from going up.
Yes.
The rough stuff.
It's rough when they
Right.
mate, because all the males are
Scar.
swimming around, the female trying to drop their milt, and they're bumping into rocks and so on and so forth.
I thought they died once they spawned. You're saying?
That's Pacific.
Pacific salmon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the Atlantic go back out. and
Only,
they-
not always. Many do die, but they are capable. Most of our anatomists are capable of going in and out. So that's a fyke net, and that's for elvers, and it's mostly at night, an incoming tide. They like to move in the dark, so a new moon. Different places that are studying them: Craigbrook and Green Lake Fish Hatcheries, NOAA. They're the ones who supplied those fish scales for me, and they annotated some of them specifically for this class. If you want to take a look at them, you can try and figure out if it was hatchery raised or not hatchery raised. We're doing dam removal, habitat restoration. Populations are increasing, and yeah, there are still some struggles, but I think it's something to celebrate for sure. And the elver fishery, 19 million in 2023. Don't know what it's going to be this year. So this you will get, but the only one that you might want to take a picture of today is if you want to go to the Seal Cove training, the monitoring. But all the others are happening, they all seem to happen on the same day. I guess they know when the fish are the best, when the 23rd or the 24th. These are, add Surrey to that list. I may try and send a note to add Surrey when I send you the PDF of this folder. And thank you to everybody who gave me things. Oh, I didn't give you here. I'm going to hand these out. You get these two. Start here, go that way. You can start up there and go the other way. And then you're also going to get, this is a copy of the interpretive panel, which is at something now. Which I did in a previous life when I used to be a graphic designer. But it does, again, give a concise story of the salmon lifestyle. And I also want to say a thank you to my late husband, who was an avid alewife harvester many years ago. And when he saw the numbers decreasing, decided to become a strong advocate for the recovery of salmon and alewives. He would knock up and down the houses on the Fishway in Soamesville and say, hey, let me know when they're fish, because we would go over with buckets and his grandkids, and we would bucket them over. The lowest count we ever had was 200. And one of the people whose doors he knocked on and said, hey, take a look at this, was David Lamont, who since became interested in the recovery. We put in, the fishway was repaired, and the counting system started based on a design that my late husband had created. And at that time, nobody wanted to go, well, not nobody, but a few people would go and count. We could go anytime we wanted and count with the counter. And now, this is such an optimistic thing. Everybody wants to be involved. You almost have to fight to get your little name on the list to be a counter. If that's not optimistic, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So,
I was the early counter, there was nobody.
oh, you started after we,
I started early,
yeah, after the counter went in though, right? After we put the gate in? Yeah, so at that point, not that many people were counting, and now it's huge. And that was the last slide. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Want to gather deer?